So Google has released a pretty crazy update for Veo-3, camera control after the shot has been created. Here, check it out.
Say you can control the camera in Veo-3 after you generate the video.
I'll believe it when I see it. Until then, it's a tall tale.
Say you can control the camera in Veo-3 after you generate the video.
I'll believe it when I see it. Until then, it's a tall tale.
Pretty wild, right? Today, we're going to dive into this new feature to see what it's really great at and, well, to see how far we can push it before it breaks. Plus, NanoBanana 2 incoming? Well, we'll go over what we know so far and, well, maybe a leaked image or two. We've also got a sponsored segment from Adobe going over their boards feature, but I'm actually going to tag that at the end with a few things that I saw at Adobe Max that really impressed me. And rounding out yet another real-time video generator. This one really looks very 2026, if you ask me. Definitely going to want to check this out. Kicking off, Google has released a, kind of genuinely insane update for Veo-3. Camera placement and motion generated, after the fact. Now, a couple of things to note off the bat. For one, this is very much an experimental feature. It is, pretty beta and, can be prone to wonk. Secondly, and I know this isn't going to thrill everyone, but this feature is only available, currently at least, on the Flow platform and, to Ultra subscribers only. That said, it is free. At least it costs 0 credits for the next 2 weeks. I do want to point out that as of this video, that 3-month sale for Google Ultra is still available at $124 a month. And honestly, if you think about the fact that Veo-3 Fast is all you can eat on that plan, it's not the worst deal in the world. So this new feature is broken down into 2 sections. You can take any previously generated video. Currently, there is, of course, no way to import video into the Flow platform. I have talked to them about video-to-video features. It's on the roadmap, so we'll see. In the meantime, take any previously generated video, come up to the pencil icon here for edit, and that will kick you out to this module where we have options for camera position and camera motion. Under camera position, we have options for up, down, left, right. I do want to finish with a Konami code. I'm not going to do it though. Move closer, move further, and stationary camera. On the camera motion side, orbit, up, down, left, right, AABA. I can't not. I just can't not. We also have Dolly in, Dolly out, and Dolly in, zoom out, and Dolly out, zoom in. It's actually the Zolly shot, the very famous Jaws Vertigo shot. So using this shot as our baseline, this is a text-to-video shot. Here it is, just, vanilla.
I appreciate that about you, James. Very professional. But remember, in the business of death, you have to take time to live a little.
James is 100% going to kill that guy by the end of the movie. So testing it out first with position, changing the camera position to move down, we end up with this as an output.
I appreciate that about you, James. Very professional. But remember, in the business of death, you have to take time to live a little.
That's pretty impressive. We get the exact same performance out of our, synthetic AI actor, just again, from a different angle. Let's try this out with some camera movement now.
I appreciate that about you, James. Very professional. But remember, in the business of death, you have to take time to live a little.
Another quick test here from an older generation. This is our period drama lovers who discovered that they're living in a simulation. This was back when, we were all playing around with writing text on the first frame. Now, let's take a look at the original.
These last few days with you have felt like I'm
living in a simulation.
I feel the same. If we're prompts, I don't care. I want to marry you.
So obviously we have a Dolly in on that shot. So let's give it a shot with a Dolly out. So completely reversing the camera movement.
These last few days with you have felt like I'm
living in a simulation.
I feel the same. If we're prompts, I don't care. I want to marry you.
And of course, given the fact that we have the Dolly out zoom in shot and the zoom in Dolly out shot, sometimes referred to as the Zolly shot, popularized, of course, by the Jaws shot and the Vertigo shot. I had to run those.
My God, it's a tornado of sharks. Maybe even a sharknado?
Now here it is with our camera move applied.
My God, it's a tornado of sharks. Maybe even a sharknado?
Our Vertigo shot came out a little bit on the German expressionist side. Let's take a look at that. Overall, it definitely works, but those are both 2 shots that I definitely would use very sparingly. Running some more tests, I do have to say the experimental aspect of all of this is very much on display here. when it works, it's really impressive. Although when it doesn't, you do end up with some old school AI video wonk, which actually honestly always brings me joy. But just for an example of some of the tests that I was running, I took this image, 3 images of a fancy lady at some cocktail bar. She does not carry a purse because she never pays for a drink. Running this in just standard Veo-3, we ended up with this. So trying this out with an orbit up move, I was really pretty convinced that, all 3 of our same lady would probably fuse together into one video. But no, it actually does a pretty solid job. Check it out. But if you have too much motion baked into the original shot, well, that's where things can go haywire. So for example, taking this shot, and then trying to orbit up on this, well, here is where things start to break down. So yes, while unusable, I do have to say with that kind of like jazzy background music, I do appreciate the fact that it goes full David Lynch there. I also did run into a few outputs that had issues that, honestly kind of surprised me. I figured they would be easy street. Take, for example, channel fan favorite, Flamethrower Girl.
Man, it is hot today. But no matter the temperature, it's always good to have a flamethrower.
So using that as a baseline and issuing a orbit up, we ended up with this as an output.
Man, it is hot today. But no matter the temperature, it's always good to have a flamethrower.
So as we can see, the background details really just kind of flatten out. It kind of just ends up looking like an untextured level in a video game. Additionally, like Flamethrower Girl doesn't have any kind of like feeling of motion. It definitely feels like she's just sort of sitting there on a treadmill. And then lastly, the camera position, it seems to not recognize a subject. It's just kind of moving. So I'm sure that you are all paying attention to all of those little background details and paying attention to nothing else. That said, one very surprising thing I did not expect it to pull off is with multi-shot generations. So taking this shot, which we utilized in our first look at the ingredients feature.
Hold, barbarian.
Do I pass, or do I take your head?
And then issuing an orbit down on that because I was curious to see how it would handle like 3 shots in one generation. And well, this is what we got.
Hold, barbarian.
Do I pass, or do I take your head?
So that's pretty cool. It actually just applied the camera move to all 3 shots. Yeah, impressive. So that got me wondering how it might handle first frame, last frame. So here is a generation that we ran when we were testing that feature when it first came out.
Well, that was pretty neat.
So the audio was a little off on that generation, but yeah, I was curious to see how it might handle like just an orbit right, just to see what'll happen.
Well, that was pretty neat.
So yeah, obviously that did not work, but I think it did give us a little bit of a clue or at least an insight into how this feature is working. I tend to think that the camera move is plotted and applied from the first frame of the video. So overall, is it perfect? It is definitely not, but again, even they say it's experimental, and to that, it's 0 credits for at least the next 2 weeks. And look, I do think that there's some really interesting stuff going on here. Immediately, I just started thinking about the feature being implemented into Scene Builder. That could be something very useful. And of course, I think that as time goes on, obviously this is going to improve a considerable amount. And, chances are by mid-2026, post-camera moves will kind of just be a ho-hum feature. To be honest, it might not even be mid-2026. It could be early 2026. Speaking of upcoming tech, it is almost time for some more banana splits, as it does appear that NanoBanana 2 is incoming. Spotted by Testing Catalog News, who I'm like 90% sure has the Office of Google DeepMind bugged at this point. Yeah, Google is preparing NanoBanana 2 or Gempix 2 for an upcoming release. Details are scant on what improvements we will see with NanoBanana 2, but I mean, there are some unsubstantiated rumors and reports churning around the rumor mill, including that, we will have clear, legible text and images. It will be able to produce infographics and charts. It will have global language support. And kind of the big thing here is that it will have higher resolution images, natively producing at 2K with an intelligent upscale to 4K. And again, a few unsubstantiated leaked images of NanoBanana 2, so take these with a grain of salt. But this is from an account named Lua. I hope I am getting that right. Purportedly showcasing a NanoBanana 2 output. Now, obviously, one way or another, be this NanoBanana 2 or not, the image has definitely been compressed, so we are not seeing it at, it's purported again 2 to 4K glory. But overall, this is what it looks like. And then if we run an edit on it, the edit here was move the camera 30 degrees, and this was the output. I don't have my protractor on me, but yeah, I mean, that looks about 30 degrees-ish. We also have a few more shots of a watermelon being smashed on the ground. I'd make a Gallagher joke here, but the younger folks in the audience would have no idea what I'm talking about. I mean, it looks good. If it's not NanoBanana 2, it definitely looks, it still looks pretty cool. I guess we will find out, hopefully around mid-November, as everything is kind of pointing in that direction for the release of Gemini 3 and NanoBanana 2. So we won't have very long to wait before our potassium levels spike again. Moving on, a quick word from today's sponsor, Adobe, where we'll be taking a look at the Firefly Boards feature. So we've covered Adobe a few times here recently, and once again, they have been kind enough to partner for today's video. Today, we're going to take a look at the AI video models available in Firefly, which ones give you the most cinematic look, and how Firefly combines everything into one workspace. I'm sure you're aware, but over the last few months, Adobe has been adding external partner models to the Firefly platform, and it's quite a cast of heavy hitters. From Flux to NanoBanana, plus a whole host of others on the image side. And on the video side, we have options from Veo-3, Ray-3, and even Mari from Moon Valley that we looked at a few videos ago. To that, Adobe Firefly has gathered up multiple generative AI models so you can experiment and iterate in one consolidated hub. So checking it out, let's begin with just some text to image. Let's utilize Google's Imagen 4 with kind of this, samurai Western prompt. That's been kind of stuck in my head for a little bit. Let's roll this, see what we get. Not too bad, definitely captured what I was looking for. Now let's just move it over to Flux 1.1, see what we get with the exact same prompt. Flux comes back with a very different interpretation of that prompt, one that in my opinion does contain a lot more energy, although there are still problems with it. For one, our saloon is actually spelled wrong. It's actually spelled salon. The salon where the cowboys go to get their hair done up all fancy. Now, we could go through, like we looked at last time, and just hit this button and head over to Photoshop Express and clone stamp that out. But we also do have the power of Google's NanoBanana here on board as well. So what we can do is simply prompt remove the sign on the building. And with that, everyone in that Old West town is now having a bad hair day. Moving over to the AI video generator side, we're actually going to slide over to Firefly Boards, which I have mentioned in the past. I think this is a great place for brainstorming and ideation, and I think this will highlight how easy it is to generate and edit ideas and experiment with multiple generative AI models to achieve different results. So let's go ahead and hit this generate video button. You'll see all of our models are down here. It's set to Ray-3 right now. Actually, let's run it in Ray-3. We haven't played around with that too much. One thing that I actually kind of like about what's going on here in Boards too is that we have this little eyedropper tool, and if we come up to our image here, click that, we can set it as the first frame, we can set it as the last frame, and then there are sort of like these tags down here that we can actually use as essentially prompts or even describe the image, which again I think reiterates the idea that Firefly Boards is a great place to explore ideas and visual direction. So let's just go ahead and run this as a first frame. Ray-3 ends up giving us this as an output, which is very much in line with my findings with Ray-3. It does give you a lot of energy. Moon Valley does not quite give us what we're looking for, but again, that's okay. And I think does very much illustrate why working on Boards is so great in that, you can see what the strengths and weaknesses of various models are. And finally, of course, there is the Veo-3 output, which does provide us with sound.
But again, what's great about working in boards and having access to all of these models that, essentially, all of our assets are here. So I can go back to my original image here of our samurai entering the town, use Flux Context Max to create like a sheriff character. But of course, he's justified on the wrong side of the screen to kind of, create the illusion that he's on the opposite side of the street. So then we can take this image and bring it into NanoBanana and, just move him to the other side of the street. And now we can create, video out of him. Ultimately, Ray-3 provided us with a pretty solid output of our, town sheriff, who's clearly going to be at odds with our samurai riding into town. Hopefully they resolve their differences and decide to open a salon together. Ultimately, I think that's the benefit here, is that you're able to mix and match the various models and play to their various strengths. From here, we can continue to expand our narrative utilizing NanoBanana. For creative teams, Firefly gives you a spot to explore and refine visual styles before locking into a direction. Whereas for content creators, it means unlocking new workflows, faster prototyping, easy experimentation, and, no more guessing which model is the right fit, because you can play with them all. Plus, they're adding in new world-class partner models into the Adobe environment all the time. So by no means is this the final list of models that you'll be working with. So head on over and get started with Adobe Firefly to explore the multiple generative AI models today. Plus, you've got some free credits waiting for you there.
So sliding out of that, just a little inside baseball here. A lot of times with these like sponsor segments, they're shot way in advance. I definitely think you can tell given the change in my voice. As some of you mentioned in the comments yesterday, yeah, I definitely picked up what I'm calling generative flu while I was down at Adobe Max. I actually wasn't planning on doing much Max coverage, but since a few people actually mentioned it in yesterday's comments, I figured I'd quickly tag in to this section with two things that really caught my eye while I was there. The first of which being Project Graph, which I think a lot of us initially saw as Adobe Goes Comfy or like Adobe UI. That's a freebie for you, Adobe marketing team. And I got to admit, they didn't do necessarily a great job introducing this during the keynote. But again, the keynote is more pointed at like the larger normie audience, so I get it. So yes, at baseline, it is a node-based workflow that encompasses all the various tools across the Adobe ecosystem. As we can see here, we have a Firefly text-to-image thing happening here, over to Photoshop's Pixelate, and down here we have Photoshop's like hue and saturation. But here's the thing that I don't think they necessarily did the greatest job explaining, is that, we also have nodes and modules for like Adobe Illustrator down here. But it's also able to bring in external tools. They kind of flew right past this in the presentation. But, as we can see, we have Flux Context over here, Depth Anything over here, any LLM, and I guess some like Microsoft image captioning thing over here. So here's where things get really interesting, is that Comfy Cloud exists. So can you run Comfy inside of Project Graph? Yeah, I think you can. But a better question might be, would you want to put a murder board inside of a murder board? I mean, that sounds like a lot of spaghetti nodes there. But at the same time, I think a lot of the hot takes when they initially launched this was like Adobe's coming after Comfy. I don't think that's the case at all. I think this is just more about creating a node-based platform to extend all of the various tools like we already use, and then just, be able to extend them out with the Adobe ecosystem. To be honest, I do think that that is a pretty smart play for them. Now, the other thing that caught my eye was at Sneaks. I mean, to be honest, everything at Sneaks blew me away. Sneaks is actually really the show for me. But Project New Depths from Adobe research scientist Ellie Michelle, this was really cool. So this is a really interesting project around Gaussian splats, which I think most of us are familiar with at this point. Basically being able to take a 2D image and create a splat-based 3D representation. So Ellie showed it off with this, tractor scene here. But here's what's cool, is that you're actually able to import new objects into that scene. Additionally, the model seems to be aware of where things live in 3D space. As you can see, we can move the tree behind the tractor, and it knows to put the tree behind the tractor. Objects are also rotatable in this space as well, which is kind of wild. And additionally, you're able to select areas of your 3D Gaussian splat. And I guess, again, you're in the Adobe ecosystem, so you can do things like, change the color and do color manipulation within it as well. You can also do things like clone areas and sort of move them around and place them in the environment as well. So it really is essentially like Photoshop for Gaussian splatting. In another example, Ellie went on to show that we essentially have like, warp and morph functions within this project as well. So as you see here, he's like highlighted the statue, and then you can actually begin bending the statue around as well. It's pretty cool. Rounding out with real-time video generation with interactive motion control. This is MotionStream. I actually didn't realize it's actually Adobe strikes again. So this is Adobe Research, Carnegie Mellon, and Seoul National University. Granted, this is still in white paper stage, but I think you're going to be pretty excited when you see it in motion. Yeah, with essentially the drag of a mouse, we're getting generated video that is controllable. This looks so cool. It isn't just limited to atmospheric stuff either. I think as we see here, I think they generate this red box to kind of say like hold this area, and then the green box is essentially like move this area. But yeah, we have, essentially our fancy poodle now being able to look around. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. But also, apparently, characters don't have to remain static. I think this is a screenshot from one of the Sora demos. I'm pretty sure it is. I feel like I recognize this. As you can see, we go through and once again, lock the candle here. And then as they begin moving the character around, if you look on the generated side, the character is actually reacting to the movement. I don't know if there's a prompt in there to say like, make it scared or anything like that, or if that's just the model going on its own. But I mean, that's pretty wild. It's essentially you've got a puppeteered character moving and generating just from essentially a mouse drag. Here's some more puppeteering that I think actually looks like super cool, with some ideas in here that didn't immediately occur to me. I mean, obviously we can kind of like move this character around by placing a point on her nose. Here's where things kind of get interesting. A little bit of wonk here as they lock the nose, and obviously we're getting like some pretty like zany faces there. But here's where things get kind of cool is, again, they're adding another static track there. So we've locked it. Now we can open mouths. That's pretty wild. If anybody remembers like motion brushes from like the Gen 2 era, I mean, this is kind of like the version of motion brushing that I think we've all been hoping for. Apparently MotionStream is running at 29 frames a second with a 0.4 second latency on an NVIDIA H100, so a bit of a powerhouse of a GPU. But I definitely do expect to see this kind of technology really showing up to the field in like 2026. So that gives you a really good idea of where video control is going. What's funny is that I keep saying 2026 like it's a long way away. I mean, blink and it will be 2026. Okay, that's it for today. I'm gonna go drink some green tea with honey, try to get this throat under control. In the meantime, as always, I thank you for watching. My name is Tim.